Hey, what's up, YouTube? Red and Bordy here. Today we have exciting content for you guys because New World has put out another group of patch notes. We called it on the podcast. I mean, we didn't really call it because, I mean, like, it was obvious that they've been doing it every month. But we said
that's all right. We'll take credit for it.
Yeah. Anyways, they gave out more information for the December patch for Alpha. And guess what, guys? We're getting a new weapon. We're getting some combat changes. They gave us some vision on what they want combat to be in New World, which I think is very important because me and Bordy often talk about how we kind of don't want them to get away from their core combat features because of how good it is, and we don't want to see them kind of eke towards an ability-based combat. But dude, I'm excited because they lined it out for us, and it is good literature, man. And we're going to cover that on this video. If you guys are interested in New World at all, definitely hit the sub button because we will be breaking down all these patch notes extensively on the channel. So hit that sub button, and we thank you for that. Bordy.
Yep.
The visions of combat for New World, man. So you come in here on the official website, which we're going to take a look at now, and they have basically posted a lot of different, or not different. They posted 3 different values of core gameplay features of combat. So they list these, Bordy, as 3 design pillars for combat, and the first one that we have is skill-based, action-oriented combat, Bordy. How does that make you feel, dude, knowing that now New World has now said what we hoped they would say?
Yes. So the patch notes are awesome, and we're, like you said, we're going to cover those in detail later. But I think this vision for combat statement that they made is so incredibly important to the game of New World. And the skill-based action combat point right there on the top, skill-based, action-oriented is exactly what I wanted to see and exactly what I wanted to hear, because we've been a little bit worried that with all of the changes with the crit damage, the targeting healing system that's came in, some of the threat mechanics, we've been a little bit worried that combat might change and shift a little bit, and this right here just affirms that it's not going to. And I am so happy that they're wanting to emphasize like positioning, timing, aiming, all of that stuff into the skill-based action-oriented combat going forward, and they're not moving away from that at all. So that makes me an incredibly happy New World player.
Yeah, dude. And again, we talk about this often, but I think it's very important. Combat is the #1 feature in an MMO, in a video game even, I think, that you just constantly do on a regular basis. And it really is a make or break for most people when a game has bad combat. And New World is like the opposite of that, in my opinion, where the combat is such a strong feature of the game and so unique compared to most MMOs that I just didn't want to. I know they were making a lot of changes to the game. That was one of the things I wanted them to try to stay away from, was combat. And it seems like, for the most part, that is going to hold true. They're going to stay skill-based, action-oriented.
Perfect.
Yes. So the second pillar of combat that they have here listed on the website is visceral and high impact. Attack from players and enemies should have a level of commitment and weight to them. Melee attacks should have appropriate responses for characters, which encourages active defense strategies in encounters. So, dude, again, this is another big thing to me that I think that the game does well, but I also think is very important for the identity of the game and the overall feel for combat, dude, is just having the combat feel good. And I think they've done a really, really good job at that. And they've continued to place emphasis on that, which is basically, attack, defense, having a consequence for pushing that attack button versus, dodging or blocking and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think one of the big discussions in the New World community right now is the feeling of combat getting a little bit too spammy. People are worried that combat's going to become just this spam fest like a lot of other MMOs out there, and I don't think anyone involved in New World at this point wants that to happen. So with this Visceral and High Impact point number 2, it shows me that they are listening and they're trying to stay away from the spammy combat, because this says that attacks should have a level of commitment and weight to them, and that attacks should have appropriate responses from characters, which encourages active defense strategies and encounters. To me, that means that if you have a level of commitment with your attacks, that you're not just going to go in there spamming attacks, right? There's a commitment whenever you press a button to attack. There's a commitment there, and you can't just spam attacks to get out of that commitment, right? And as we'll see later and talk about some of the other notes that they've changed. There are going to be some canceling things that are going to happen, but this to me is another huge point, and I am incredibly happy to see it.
Yeah, dude. And you know, I think it's, again, just awesome to see them reaffirming these things, because they were making a lot of changes to the way combat works, with removing the global cooldown system, which me and you thought was a good move in the right direction, just because it didn't feel as fluid as I would hope combat did at that time. With the global cooldowns, but I think at that point when they made that change, I think they were people started to become concerned about the other changes that they would possibly make, and kind of turn this into, again, more of a like ability spammy type of game, and these notes or these development updates definitely show us that is not their intention at all. So the third and final pillar for combat is depth of system and builds. We want to encourage creativity within the systems to find the build that is right for you and your particular playstyle. Our goal is to design and tune the system to reward a wide range of builds and strategies. Now, you know, Bordy, this is one of the things that I think, for the most part, I felt was lacking in the game, especially in the preview event and the build that they had up there, was the diversity in the build of which players were using. And now we know that there were some offensible things that kind of caused that to be true. The hatchet being unbalanced, and the life staff kind of being broken as far as the mobility that you gained with that. So there were some things there that were preventing, diversity of builds during the preview event. But in general, like the lack of weapons or the lack of choices that you had to make within your build, I think were severely lacking. And it's nice to see, Bordy, that they are placing an emphasis on creating a world or a game that has a depth to it of the way you can build out your character.
Yeah, again, man, this third pillar or this third vision for their combat is awesome, man. I couldn't be more happy with these three statements that they made right here, man, because this was a very big concern of mine recently, and I'm so glad that they came out and had the transparency to show us what these three design pillars for combat are in New World. This is huge. This is huge, man. This is going to drive the decisions for how they make combat work in the future of the game, and I love this, man. These three couldn't have been any better, in my opinion. I love the skill-based, visceral, high impact, depth of system and builds, all perfect. Music to my ears, man.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it shows that they're listening to the community, because I think there was a decent amount of, the majority, obviously is easy to say, of people that wanted New World to maintain its combat skeleton. And I think with laying out these pillars, which is, I think, a great term for these, statements that they made about combat, it's good to see that they're going to base the overall experience in New World around these key features of combat. So I'm extremely excited as well, Bordy. It's good to see that they, not only are sticking with this cadence of giving us monthly updates, but that these are very, I think, well detailed. They aren't just like fluff. They aren't saying like, we added more mobs, we added more abilities. They're actually like breaking down the reason that they're adding the things into the alpha and into the game. And I think they're doing a great job at the actual amount of stuff they're adding to the game, and we'll break that down more on the channel again. But there's a ton of good stuff in this update, and I think the skeleton that they lay forth, or the pillars that they lay forth about combat, is one of the best things to hear, man.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I was very excited to see this article along with the patch notes. So as Red said, we're going to break all this stuff down in future videos, and I can't wait for that. There are some good changes and maybe not some such good changes in our opinion, but make sure you click that subscribe button so you can get the updates. And dude, we're going to be pumping out some videos.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have thoughts about the combat system and the pillars that they've laid in place, leave some comments below. We'd be happy to discuss that with you guys. It's always fun talking about New World with you. Don't forget to hit that sub button for more videos like this about New World, and we will see you in the next one.